In today's video, we compare the Alcatel OneTouch Sonic on the left here to the ZTE Majesty on the right. Both of these phones retail for $179.99 from StraightTalk.com or from Walmart. Both of these phones are large screen devices. The Alcatel here has a 4.6-inch screen, while the Majesty here has a 4.5-inch screen. Now, the other huge difference between these phones is the fact that the Alcatel is 4G LTE capable. It is a GSM device, so Straight Talk will activate that with either AT&T or T-Mobile, and you will get 4G LTE data speeds on it for the same $45 prepaid card. While the Majesty, on the other hand, is a CDMA device. It will be activated with either Verizon or Sprint, but it's just regular old 3G. It does not have the 4G capabilities, so you won't get that 4G data on this phone. Now, the specs on paper are better on the Alcatel device. This one's got a 1.4 gig processor. It also has a 4.6-inch screen, as I think I mentioned, while the ZTE has a 1.2 gig processor and a 4.5-inch screen. Both of these phones come with Android 4.1, so you get Jelly Bean on both of these. Now, the user interface is pretty much the same on both of these phones, though the Alcatel has a couple little extras that the ZTE doesn't have, and that being the FM radio, which is a hardware radio, meaning that it will work even if you don't have a cell phone signal. So it's not an app you can simply download. It also comes with an LED flashlight already pre-installed, which of course you can download if you want on the Majesty, but the Majesty does not come with that hardware-based radio. So you can probably download something, but it won't work offline if you lose a cell phone signal in an emergency type situation. Now, everything else as far as Android goes is pretty much the same. Both of these phones have YouTube, Google Maps, Google Chrome, the Play Store, etc., etc. So as far as the base Android stuff goes, both of them are pretty much the same. Now, as far as the dimensions and the design on these phones go, as you can see, both of these phones are pretty much identical dimension-wise. They measure 5.25 inches in height, about 2.75 inches in width. Both of them are about 0.45 inches in thickness, and they both weigh about 5.5 ounces. Now, both of these phones have the 3 Android button layout at the bottom. Both phones have the capacitive touch, so they are flush with the screen, as you can see. And they both backlight when you press them or when you touch them. Now, the Majesty here has a cool little light sensor, which I don't think you can see on the video, but it basically detects light, so when it's dark, it'll light up the buttons. When it's light or in the day, it won't, so that will probably save you a little bit of battery in the long run. Whereas the Alcatel does not have that sensor. It just simply lights up the buttons whenever you touch them. Now, the rest of the layout on these things is a little bit reversed, if you will. On the Alcatel, on the left-hand side, you don't have any buttons. On the top, you have the lock/power button and the headphone jack. On the right-hand side, you have the volume rocker and the charge port. The ZTE, on the other hand, has the volume on the left and the charge port on the left. It's only got the headphone jack on the top, and on the left you have the power/lock button. Now, in terms of looks, the Majesty is probably a little bit better looking because it's got this metal look trim going around the phone, while the Majesty is all black. Both of these phones are plastic construction. Both the screens are plastic, so they're the same in that regard. But the Majesty does look a little bit nicer because of that metal look trim. Now the back of these things, the battery cover, are both rubberized type material. So both have that kind of velvety feel to them. And on the back, both of these have LED flashes and 5 megapixel digital cameras. Both have front-facing VGA cameras. There is one more thing I forgot to mention, and that is the keyboards on these things. The Alcatel has the swipe keyboard already pre-installed. The Majesty does not. I'm not sure if you can download that or not. I personally don't use it, so I don't know if you can download it. But the one thing to note is that on the Alcatel you have much larger letter icons than you do on the Majesty. So side by side you can see a considerable size difference on these. So I think the OneTouch Sonic here is going to be much easier to text on than it will be on the Majesty. So I think finally that about wraps it up. I think I've covered everything on these phones. If you want my opinion, I would definitely go with the Alcatel OneTouch Sonic. It's got better specs. It costs the same as the Majesty, and it also has the 4G LTE speeds. Now, if you're concerned with the coverage, however, if you have CDMA Verizon coverage in your area that's better than AT&T, then you'll definitely want to go with the Majesty, because the Majesty will work with Verizon, while the Alcatel will not work with Verizon. It'll only work with AT&T.